Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to the second study session for the Adams County Cultural Council. Today is Thursday, April 14th and 5 o'clock. Melvin, would you call the roll, please? I think you're muted, Melvin.
When you hear your name called, please say here or present.
Okay.
Joyce Downing.
Here.
Ed Hansen. Megan Hartline.
Present.
Christina Monjon.
Here.
Emily Burr.
Here.
Jeff Lappin.
Here.
Erica Hernandez. Jesse Martinez. That concludes roll call.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the process confirmation, and I will read this so everyone in the audience can hear it or know what we're doing, as well as, just a refresher for council. All council members should have their own Flux portal up to follow along. We will not be screen sharing. Discussion will take place for each organization and category applied for and will be guided by our 2022 rubrics. Each organization will get a maximum of 8 minutes for discussion. We'll keep time and give a 2-minute warning. Study sessions are recorded. Recordings will be available within 2 business days on the Adams County website. Please be courteous on the virtual platform. This is an open discussion, but we will call on hands raised. We will have a 10-minute break halfway through the organization discussion. Please try and stay in the meeting outside of the break. And a note to the public, study sessions are open to the public for observation only. Organizations will not have the opportunity to comment. Please keep your cameras off and yourselves muted. Thank you. Okay. With that, the next item on the agenda is an organization update. Dana?
I have no new updates since last week.
Oh, all right then. Thank you. All right, we will dive into the discussions then. The first organization is Colorado Conservatory of Dance. They are asking for 2 projects. The first one is a performance series at the Pinnacle. And the second is their community education in Adams County. So with that, I will open the discussion. So I would just note to start to kick things off that this will be a 12-month event. They'll be having events during the year, and they're looking at attendance of almost 6,000. So I think that, especially at Pinnacle, I think that's quite a feat. So with that, and I love the collaboration that they are having with the Colorado Symphony and DU.
Christina? I agree, Joyce. I also liked in their grant application, they very meticulously described how they keep their records of their reach and their impact. So I thought that was really nice to see. And they had a great pivot strategy to digital, and they even expanded their reach via digital in the height of the pandemic. So I liked seeing that. Their JEDI initiative and the incorporation of bilingual communication, integration of world dance forms, and working to diversify their board. I love to see all of that. And then Project 2 in particular in the Adams County schools, it has great reach. And I think it'd be really cool in the future for Adams County to fund an expansion of the after school dance program. I think it's just a really great organization.
Mhm. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I thought they pivoted well with the pandemic. I like the anti-bullying thing and the internships for the high school students and the partnerships with the school faculty. Some good collaborations. That's all.
Thanks, Ed. Anyone else have input? All right, well, thank you.
I'm sorry, Joyce. It looks like you might have her hand raised.
Oh, I didn't see it. Thanks.
It's okay.
Hey, this is Megan. I'm sorry, I'll switch devices and get video on soon. I was just going to say that, Joyce, I think you and Christina had a really full explanation of the great impact of this program. So you said it all. I also thought that the grant was really well written.
Thanks, Megan. And thanks, Emily. You know, I don't see all the hands all the time, so.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Just as a matter of process, do we need to reflect in the minutes that Ed has joined the session?
Yeah, Melvin's got that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else? Okay, thank you. All right, the next organization is the Colorado Dragon Boat. Let's see here. I believe they have two projects. The first one is, I've lost my notes a little bit, Colorado Dragon Boat, and the second one is Dragon Boats at Adams County. So with that, I'll open the discussion for this organization.
Christina?
So I thought they also had great records that they obtained in regards to their reach. They were fiscally responsible. They had a great pivot in the pandemic with the film festival. And then just the Dragon Boat Festival is such a unique and exciting event. And I think it's worth acknowledging, and they bring it up in their application, that over the last 2 years, there has been an increase in harassment and hate crimes against the Asian American Pacific Islander community. So I think we have a duty as a council to ensure programs like this are funded to allow for increased visibility and education in our community, and also to support our AAPI community members.
Great. That's a good idea.
Megan?
I am just so stoked to see the partnership with Adams County. I think that having the regattas here in Adams County is really cool access to this, because in the past, folks had to travel to the event outside of Adams County. And I do appreciate that we saw a lot of records about participation from Adams County residents, but this just brings it closer to home and easier to access. I would have loved to see a little more detail on dates for future events for the regattas or the races in Adams County. But overall, I'm just so stoked to see this partnership.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
You know, and we have a fairly small group tonight. If folks just want to chime in without hands raised, that would be very welcome, but whatever you guys want.
Thanks so much, Zoe. I will echo what has already been said. I totally support the programming and love the engagement with Adams. I really appreciated the breakdown of funding for their projects. It just really helps to see in a minute detail where everything is going and how it may fold into greater programming that the organization has. So I really appreciated seeing that, and very excited to see what comes in the future from this organization.
This is Jeff. I'd like to mention that on Project One, I don't remember if this was in the proposal last year, but I love the coinage participation. I thought that was very clever and says so much about the mission of this organization. I'd like to see some more detail on the qualification of the Adams County attendees. And I also want to just say that I found it odd, maybe I misread this, that vendors are paid an honorarium. I'm not, that just seems a little odd to me. On Project Two, the proposal says that there was a financial plan in place to replace the boats with a new fleet, and that over the past couple of years, plans have been made to make sure that funds were available to do that. But this proposal is relying in part of the new funds to underwrite that effort. And I'd like some clarification on that. And the events at Riverdale aren't specifically outlined. So I'd like to get more information on that, please. But overall, I thought this was a very good proposal, as it always is.
You know, and I just wanted to call out their focus on trying to overcome the feeling of unsafe and educate folks through these different events and different programs. I thought that was admirable to do that. And especially with the pandemic, the way we had it, you know, these last year or so, there was quite a bit of issues concerning that type of thing with the different cultures. So I just wanted to mention that that particular part of it and how they called it out, and they're trying to work on it.
Ed?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree that I'm pretty excited about this partnership. A couple of years ago, my Tai Chi class was part of the volunteer entertainment there for a couple of years in a row. And it's been a while. It's a great experience. And I thought they were very creative in their proposal.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll close that discussion on the Colorado Dragon Boat and move to Colorado Educational Theater. Now, this particular organization is asking for GOS only, but I thought we could open up the discussion concerning that.
I really love this organization and their programming for kids. I thought it was inspirational and creative. And I thought it was really creative, their pivot at the start of COVID with the play packages they put together for Mapleton schools. And then of course they did online classes. I just thought it was really heartening to hear stories of success and joy from kids in their program, when so much of what you hear, I'm lucky, I have a little kid and I didn't have to deal with that, but keeping kids home from school in the age ranges where it was a lot tougher and they really struggled, I just found it really heartwarming to read about something that they were able to engage in and enjoy. And I just look forward to, you know, they talked about that they recognize the need and the importance of diversifying their board. So looking forward to the follow through on that, but I really like them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with you, Christina. I just wanted to point out, you know, they have not applied since 2019, so it's nice to see them back, continuing to push their mission forward. I love that, you know, they're very focused on reaching children, but that their mission really is to be inclusive of teachers that surround the children, the families that surround everyone. So it is far reaching and I think quite impactful, especially with the diverse group that they're able to reach with their mission. So I think the one bit of feedback I might have, I would love to see them diversify their contribution supporters. It'd be interesting to see what kind of foundation or corporate support that an organization like this might be able to reach out to and garner some support that way. So excited to have them back.
Yes.
I would chime in terms of garnering support. I think this organization could have considered applying to Adams County for project support as well as for general operating support. It was pretty well fleshed out in the organization, the educational programs that they're offering, but we could have seen a project request detailing which specific maybe Adams County schools or organizations they're reaching out to. And then the application seemed to focus more on that educational component and a little less detail on what the GOS would support in terms of staff expansion and technical improvements. That's the kind of thing we absolutely want to help organizations grow with, but a little more detail about what the GOS would go to would, I think, support a split then into also asking for project support.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? I don't hear anything, so we will move to the next organization, and that would be the Colorado Fine Arts Association. They are requesting 2 projects. The first one is Eastern Classical Music Project, and the second is Eastern Classical Dance Project. So I will open it up for discussion.
I'll go first. So I thought this was a really exciting group and also an important cultural representation that I haven't seen thus far. This is my first year on the council, so I love that. I love how they're working to build and improve things by making Project One an interactive type concert by letting ticket holders request specific songs. I just think that shows, a desire to be creative and forward thinking. So I'll be interested to know how that works out and see if any ideas for the future are sparked from that. And then I thought Project 2 sounds really exciting and a unique offering for Adams County. I think the exposure to traditional Indian dance with the contemporary twist is really exciting. So
I would, echo what you just said, Christina. I did have a question on the diversity issue. That there's recognition that there needs to be more diversity on the board, and the proposal says that there are, in quotes, clear plans to create more diversity. None of that was spelled out, though. I'd be interested to know what this organization is doing along those lines.
Anyone else? I'm not hearing anything, so thank you for that input. We will move to the next organization, which is Colorado Youth Symphony Orchestra. They are asking also for 2 projects. The first one is outreach, and the second is the fall concert at the Pinnacle. So with that, I would open up discussion. Let's see.
I guess I'll keep going. So I thought this was really cool for a lot of reasons. I thought it's great that the students get to study with professional Colorado Symphony Orchestra members. I think that's a really special experience. I like that they require their students to be involved in their school music programs where they exist, because music in schools is important, and if there's an existing program supporting it and bringing that influence to it is important. I love the follow-up of where some of their previous students have landed, including they mentioned as principal cello of the San Francisco Symphony. I think that shows like the value of the program. And I liked their continuous improvement with their programs and new offerings. They were really creative with their COVID pivot. They included links, which we've talked about the limitations of the grant application and the characters. So they told a bigger story with the use of those links. I love their Mile High Strings program that reaches out into underserved schools. And the fact that they are really, really committed to including the voices of their students, and starting a student council that can give feedback and help direct the future of the organization. So I would love to see more Adams County schools involved in the outreach program. I think it's a good organization.
I totally support everything you said. I get all the notes that I have here. They pretty much are in line with what you were talking about. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Anyone else?
Emily, go ahead.
Megan. No, you go. That's fine.
I was curious because looking at the anticipated attendees with 60 string students at Westminster and 30 at Century Middle School, it wasn't super clear to me in the description of the program how recruitment at schools is participated. It seems to be during the school day, which I think is a great way to lower barriers to participation. But I'm curious how students are recruited and what then what the logistics of participation looks like, and then looking for any information on then like if it's an optional activity, how do students opt in, and what are statistics and demographics looking like for participants. So just that's something that in a future application I would be really curious to see more just detail about how the program works and what the impact is.
Yeah, you nailed it, Megan. That was exactly where I was going with that as well. I also was looking for a little bit greater detail for Project 2 in terms of the number of attendees that they felt like they might be reaching out to and seeing at the particular concert. I am 100% a product of an organization like this in terms of partnering with professional musicians and doing the side-by-side teaching. So I cannot, I wouldn't be the person that I am without the experiences that I've had from organizations just like this one. And so this organization is so near and dear, and I just, I'm thrilled that they're back requesting for more support. And I hope that they're able to change lives as much as they have done for me. So thank you for bringing your application forward.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I would just like to bring up that there are two projects. There's an over ask, and so we'll have to adjust the amount requested because one is 88% and the other one is 52%, which is over the guidelines. Thanks, Emily.
Yeah, thanks, Dana.
All right. Anyone else? All right. So the next organization coming up is the Commerce City Cultural Council. And they are requesting for GLS as well as funding for one project, which is Music in the Park. And with that, I'll open up the discussion.
I'm going to see if I can unmute before Christina. Christina, I love your enthusiasm for all of these, so I actually like having you go first.
No, it takes the pressure off. Thank you for taking a turn.
One thing that really struck me about this application was that it seems to be a really effective use of funds and investment because it's a pretty modest outlay for 4 totally free community accessible events. I love that it's very low barrier to entry. I love that people can really easily participate in these.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just think it's really cool that Commerce City has put together this council that's working to bring things even smaller than the county, but to their smaller community. So I liked it too.
I totally agree. And then I just noticed something, that they put in there where they are actually, Commerce City is actually ranked in the top 10 of diverse cities. So they're committed to principles of all types of inclusivity and diversity, and they called that out. So I thought that was quite an accolade for them.
I think you just mentioned, Joyce, is interesting. My son bought a home in Commerce City a little over a year ago, and that was one of his considerations, in fact. So, love Commerce City. And I thought this proposal was really wonderful. The free, concerts, everything about it.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to just raise a question. Maybe this is something, Joyce, Dana, and Zoe, that we can discuss at the next retreat. And that is, while this isn't a big ask from the group, unless I'm mistaken, the funding that SCFD would provide versus what the city would provide is greater. And just as a matter of approach, I think in my mind, if a city-sponsored organization should have at least as much skin in the game as what they're asking for in support. And this isn't a big deal, but I just think it's something I would like to discuss at the next retreat.
That's fine. We can do that. Zoe, can we add that? Will you add that for us?
Yes, I'm nodding. I forget you can't see our faces. Yes, gotcha, Jeff.
I would like to remind you that you cannot comment on this grant because there's a conflict of interest.
Who is this now? I'm sorry, I can't see you.
All right, right.
Yeah, Ed's hand is up, and I was like, Ed, you can't comment. You can listen, but you can't participate. So.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, what I was going to say was, to Jeff's note, when there's money flowing in from the cities as well as, from private organizations and SCFD, their budgets look different. So I know we had that, I think with North Glen for a while until they really worked on pulling it apart and addressing, the difference in applications that had city funds coming in as well as SCFD. But I think it's a good conversation to have, so we can highlight it.
I'm not sure I'm going to be eloquent about my response here, but here's a shot. I look at the budget for this project and others like it in our stack of granting applications, and when the revenue side is sparse like this one, it worries me if the support that we're giving is not enough. Does this kind of project actually happen? And so, I think it's worth it for us and for the organizations writing applications to be thoughtful about, where else can we approach for contributions and support for such a worthy project. All of these are, but this is worrisome to me about whether or not it would actually happen if we were not contributing a great deal to this budget.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, may I add that the dates of the projects are dated for the summer 2022. which obviously funds can't be used until they actually get them in 2023. So I think it might be a typo, like a grantsmanship issue. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm pretty sure they meant next year.
Thanks, Dana. I
But
appreciate
to the organization, if you're listening,
Yeah.
please be mindful of those dates.
I didn't notice that, but thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to discuss this application? I'm not hearing anyone, so we will move to the next organization, which is Control Group Productions.
This one I have to unmute very quickly on.
Absolutely, that's okay.
I'm so excited. This is another one that just really makes me happy to be a part of this. I thought that they're just so cool. Like, they feel a really special and important place in the community, and I love like their programming and how it spans several like relevant issues. And I thought their resiliency, their focus on resiliency was really important. And to my unpracticed eye, their financials looked really strong because of their resiliency planning. Jeff, you can tell me if I'm wrong. With Project One, the only concern I had is that the shows aren't confirmed. And I understand there are challenges with that. But I think it's such a great educational opportunity for students, and it's presented in a way that truly makes an impact. And then Project Two, I think in our rubric, we talk about, is this programming unique? And I think Project Two absolutely fills that definition of unique and creative cultural programming. I love that our council has an opportunity to help fund something that educates people on the Indigenous history in the Denver area. I think that's really important. We saw an organization that had an opportunity to be a part of that, and at least from the grant chose not to. So I think it's really great to bring that aspect of our local history, in front of people to teach them about it.
Ditto on what you just said, Christina, all that stuff. And to the point about not having the schools lined up that they're going to partner with. This is a kind of a chicken and egg thing here. Is like, when we get the funding, then we'll go ahead and line up the schools. I think that I think that's problematic here. We typically expect that the organizations making proposals say, we've made arrangements with these schools, at least if they're tentative, even if they're tentative, to at least outline where the programs are going to be heading. So I think it's important that we get to see soon, what that's going to look like. Again, it's a chicken and egg thing, but I think we should press for that.
Well, they discussed also that the lack of confirmed dates, it wasn't so much about the money being there, it was that schools are still trying to figure out if they can support outside programming for fall school year. So it's a tough situation. It really
No, I
is.
guess I'm just saying, it's like they must have a list of target schools that they want to partner with, and it would have been helpful to see what those are. Not a big problem, because this is an organization that has a high likelihood of being able to pull these programs off. It'd just be nice to know where they're going.
I totally agree with both of you. Yeah, I'm very excited about this ask. And one thing that I really thought was creative was the fact that they were building it into a multi-year collaboration, so they will be extending it out. I thought that was very creative on their part.
Ed has a comment.
Well, if Ed's not chiming in, I will. I agree that I think this is super interesting and unique and innovative, and therefore risky, because with innovation and with like creative, collaborative things comes an element of risk. And to that point, Jeff, about identifying schools, I think a lot of other organizations handled it by in their grants saying like, we've had conversations with these schools pending those schools knowing what they're doing in the fall. And I think that's a really helpful way to communicate that like tenuous situation. So they said that they identified dozens of teachers. So I think we would be curious to know like which schools in Adams County maybe those teachers are at. But again, like this is, I think there's also a really interesting, unique element in this being an outdoor performance, which I think mitigates some of the uncertainty around pandemic risk.
I just have to comment on their DEI section of their application. I love what's happening there. That, you know, their long-term commitment to continue their thoughtful efforts here. I just thought it was really thorough and indicative of everything else that they're doing in their organization, and their commitment to all of the fine points and in everything that they put forward. So I just really appreciated this section and wanted to call them out for that.
I think, Emily, that's absolutely right, because you never check off DEIA, right? Like it's a continuous process, and they definitely acknowledge that.
Mhm. I totally agree with everything that's been said with this organization. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. Okay. Anyone else have any comments?
Ed, I'm just going to call on you one last time because your hand is still up. So if you don't have a comment, then go ahead and pull that hand down. Thanks.
Sorry about that.
All right. With that,
Ed, that was my role at the last meeting, so I couldn't remember to bring my hand down. So you're in good company, okay?
Well, I did have some comments, but they were covered pretty well, so I didn't think I needed to add anything.
okay, thanks, Ed. With that, we'll close the discussion on the control group and move to David Taylor's Cigar Dance Ensemble. And I will, let's see, let me just check my notes here. And they're asking for funds for one project, and it's called Portals. So with that, I will open the discussion.
Okay, I gave you guys like 5 seconds. So I think this is a very unique and interesting organization. I'm excited about the shows in Adams County. I think Jeff's gonna say it's a lot of money, but as I was reading through it, it's so technically complex and detailed and difficult. They talked about their costume design and everything. So I just think it's worth considering that this is very unique programming being brought to Adams County and might be worth the money.
Okay, I need to chime in then. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's very well accounted for here. I mean, it's a great proposal. It's going to bring a lot of value. So I have no reservations at all about this proposal.
Anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, I do. I was impressed with the rigorous COVID protocols. I mean, they were pretty thorough.
Mhm.
And not very many proposals have such a high percentage of earned revenue. That means they've got some skin in the game.
I'd like to point out before I forget, throughout a lot of these proposals, those we looked at last week and what we're doing tonight and going forward, I was really pleased to see how many organizations have looked at this through COVID and looking for ways to reach an audience virtually. that so many organizations have incorporated that as they go forward. And without having anything to do with COVID, they just saw this as a really great way to expand their reach. And it's really wonderful to see that. So I applaud every organization who's making those efforts.
That's a very good comment, Jeff. I mean, I've noticed that too, and how they pivoted and said, yes, we're going to do both now. So I love that idea. And it's going to, you know, draw more and more audiences, you know, for those folks that can't get out, you know, so maybe some of our seniors that can't get out to go to some of these programmings. So I love it. Anyone else? All right. We'll close the discussion on David Taylor's and move to Denver Children's Choir. And they are asking for funds for one project, the Youth Choir Music Education Outreach Northwest Initiative. With that, I'll open the discussion.
I'm just going to beat Christina to the punchline here. I just want to share this quote that is pulled from the application. Ultimately, this choir has done so much more than teach me how to sing. It has given me a sense of community, a sense of leadership, self-discipline, a home away from home, and some of the best relationships I could have ever hoped for. I might as well have just started crying reading the application. I just loved it, and it resonated so much with me. And I just wanted to point that out before I make any other comments, because I'm not quite on the ball as Christina normally is, but I loved it, and I really appreciated the sentiments and how it added to their application.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyone else?
I'm glad you said that, Emily, because I actually was going to wait all of you out on this one. Because what's not to love about a children's choir, specifically one that's bringing music programming into schools that have no music class at all, but putting my Jeff hat on, I did notice that it was a big ask, and the connection to Adams County is not as strong as some of the other places. So I want to be the hype girl and talk everybody up, but also trying to be pragmatic. I'm interested in everyone else's thoughts about their connection to Adams County, because it just didn't seem as strong as what everybody likes to see.
Yeah, Christina, in fact, I was going to raise the same question. I didn't see any outreach to Adams County in this proposal.
They
Yeah.
have some students that live in Adams County. It's a small number. And then they said that their end of year performance, they will be doing heavy advertising in Adams County to get people to attend that performance.
You know, and I noted that also. And when I was reading the application, they said they were tracking by the zip codes for, you know, Adams County. But I know that many of the Denver zip codes are in Adams County. So I'm curious about how they're going to flesh that out.
Megan?
Sorry, I was trying to find a way to lower my hand because I was going to say the same thing that Joyce did, that zip code is not necessarily an accurate way to identify county residency. And when we're talking about relatively small numbers of participants, I think that Adams County participation is something we want a lot more clarity on.
Thanks, Megan. Anyone else?
Actually, Joyce, they do have a specific plan to outreach to Adams, which not all applications detail out their specific marketing plans in such detail as this one. So, you know, I wholeheartedly agree with the other comments that have been shared, but did want to point that out because that is something important, and I appreciate their want to reach into Adams.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think if they come back next year with a stronger connection to Adams County, it's like a no-brainer, right? this is such a wonderful organization. But that's a good point, Emily, to consider.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move to the next organization, which is the Denver Municipal Band. And with that, they are requesting funds for 2 projects. The first one is educational services and public concerts, and the second one is Adams County Senior Center concert. With that, I'll open the discussion.
Okay, I tried to give someone else a chance. So with this organization, I really loved how much they discussed how they collaborate with a multitude of other organizations. We've seen that before, but this to me was just above and beyond anyone else I've seen so far. And the accessibility of their shows being free and online. They have a great history in our community as well. I also love that in Project One, they're providing a benefit to students in the mentorship and education of music, but also bringing more attention and audience to the Adams County schools when they're raising funds for their music programs. To me, that's a great example of partnership. And then I loved their creativity in the times of COVID and how they discuss going to the senior centers and playing on the PA. I just think it's really, really great. So.
That was pretty creative. I like that. Anyone else? Hearing no other discussion, we are actually halfway through our organizations. Would we like to take a break or shall we continue on?
I vote break.
I was gonna say, Megan's
All right.
nodding.
Yeah.
Let's have a break of what, 10 minutes, Zoe?
Sure. That's
All right. All right. See you
5:58, we're back.
5:58. Okay, let's make it 6 o'clock.
You're very generous.
All right. All right. I made it at 6 o'clock. That was the fastest 12 minutes I've spent so far.
I feel like our 5 minutes last time was too short. I was
I
like,
know.
oh wait, I gotta get back.
It's kind of
I
like,
appreciate that it's like right at golden hour too. So it's like gorgeous if you got outside for 12 minutes.
other than the wind, this has been such a bad week for wind, you know? I keep getting these headaches and let's see.
It's very depleting.
Yeah. Shall we get started? Is Melvin okay? Are we good?
Melvin is good. I was just going to comment about the wind in my hair, but yeah.
I can see it blowing the locks.
That's the problem.
I know.
Re-announce some of the housekeeping items for anyone that's new to the call about keeping muted and that the
I
council.
will, yeah, I'll do that in a second. Thank you. Okay, are we ready? All right. As part of the process that before we get started, just to let everybody know, study sessions are recorded and the recordings will be available within 2 business days on the Adams County website. And just another note to the public, study sessions are open to the public for observation only. Organizations will not have the opportunity to comment. Please keep your cameras off and yourselves muted. With that, thank you. Our next organization is Denver Young Artist Orchestra Association. And they are asking for funds for one project. So with that, I will open up the discussion.
I'll give props to the DYAO for the Walt Disney Concert Hall and that we get to experience that here at home before they go off. I also wanted to commend the well-diversified contributor sources here, although, I mean, that may be a one-time thing this year with the described organization that contributed, but they had a really diverse pool of contributors to sustain this organization.
Yeah, I agree. It's so exciting for them. And I love that their performance is outdoor and accessible. And then they have the instrument petting zoo, which is exciting to, you know, keep that love alive with the younger kids. And I also like how they partner with other organizations to work to make music more accessible. They describe their musical pathways program. So that's not what this project's for, but I just think it speaks to a really great organization.
I totally agree with both of you. I just think that this is a great grant. And what I kind of pulled out from it also that they want to resume their anti-bullying ballet in collaboration with the Colorado Observatory of Dance for some in the schools. So I think it's needed and I commend them for doing that. Anyone else have anything?
Just one quick thing, council, that the dates are again 2022. So I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I kind of like the idea that they're trying to outreach to new audiences and new schools. So I'm looking forward to that, as well as the Stanley Marketplace. I really think that's an opportunity that, you know, to create new audiences and new interest in what they're doing. So I think that's great.
Yep, I totally agree.
Okay. Anyone else? Right. If not, we will go to our next organization, which is Downtown Aurora Visual Arts, or DAVA. I hope my turning of my pages doesn't interrupt anything. I keep doing that to you guys. I'm sorry. The first project, they're asking for 2 projects. The first one is building bridges, and the second one is their DAVA outreach. So with that, I will open it up for discussion.
I am just going to say that I am a huge fan of the experiential learning and the job training and creative action programs. I think this program fills a much needed gap and reaches a really sometimes hard to reach youth audience with a really deep and long-term experience for them. I think it's amazing. And I appreciate that they had some really specific numbers on participation by county, since that's the lens that we're looking at. So I just think that this is an amazing, like well organized, well described program.
Yeah, that's everything I was gonna say. I love the depth and breadth of the programming and the target audience of immigrants and refugees. I think it's just wonderful.
And I totally agree with both of you. I think this is a great program, you know, to reach out to those folks that don't have the ability to participate in a lot of these different activities. Is there anyone else?
I think this is a good example of how to include potential partnerships with schools, even though they may not be firm. So I appreciate that. Just piling on to our earlier conversation about that topic, but appreciate their whole application, of course, but specifically that point.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing no other discussion, we will move to the next organization, which is Environmental Learning for Kids, or ELK as we know it fondly. And they are requesting funds for one project, which is the Commerce City Youth Naturally. So with that, I'll open the discussion up.
I'm gonna be a hype girl for this one because I love that they're bringing science and the outdoors to kids that otherwise wouldn't have, you know, limited exposure. I love science in the outdoors. And I think that they also back it up with how they measure success. So I think it's exciting and important, and it's a gap that needs to be filled. And I think they're doing it well.
Anyone else?
I agree. I think this is a great program, and I think the project budget is really well laid out. The one thing that I was curious about looking at the financials was I was wondering with the project budget that it includes both ticket admission sales and program fees, and I was curious about how that distinction was made, and a little curious about how the participation looked for participants financially.
One thing that I noted as I was reading the grant also was the high graduation level, 98% of those kiddos that actually went there, you know, and contributed year round. So that's very exciting, very, you know, so. And I love the idea of having science in our projects. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the kids. And actually, they were talking about their Saturday programs, which includes not only lessons of science, but zoology and botany and so many other things. So I think that's a highlight for them. I'm pretty excited about them. Anyone else have any
I
comments?
have a comment.
Okay,
Yeah, I like anything that puts kids and science together. And I like that there's a broad collaboration across a lot of related agencies. And they're working with a lot of venues in Adams County. They seem to have a lot of generous funding sources and substantial earned revenue as well. So it looks like it's a pretty strong organization, and they've got some good connections, and they're bringing a lot of good science education.
anyone else? All right. With that, I'll close the discussion on the elk project, and we'll move to Fiesta, Colorado. And they are requesting funds for one project, El Dia de los Muertos. And with that, I will open up the discussion.
I think there's a lot of things to enthuse about this program, but I'll pick out one tiny detail that when we think about location within Adams County, sometimes it seems like we see a lot of programs participating at the same venues. And so this organization was not only partnering with Anythink Library, but also the Bromley Farm Festival. So really hitting some venues that maybe we don't see as many organizations serving or using.
Great comment. I didn't, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this is an exciting programming from an exciting group. And maybe it's the way that it was written, but I did have a question when they were discussing their programming at the Armory. It sounded pretty tenuous, and I don't know if that was because they haven't confirmed with the Armory or because they just know that we live in a world where anything can happen, and hopefully that's the case. But that was just a question because it seemed very uncertain with the way that I read it.
Counselor, just a note that Jeff had to excuse himself. He had something pop up that he needed to tend to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has any comments?
I do, Joyce. I just, in terms of challenging times during the pandemic and how organizations are making pivots and what they're seeing as a result of that, and just wanted to note some of the comments that they made, you know, in terms of making positive changes, hard changes maybe for them, but saw positive outcomes as a result of making some of those choices. And so I appreciated that they included those comments, and that even in hard times as we have been through and are currently still in, you know, there are very good things that can come from times like these. And I feel like they're looking at those changes and those outcomes and saying, okay, how can we continue to use those in the future? And so I just appreciated their approach and willingness to be agile going forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? With that, we'll close the discussion for Fiesta and move to 4 Mile Historic Park. And they are asking funding for one project, which is field trip and outreach. With that, I'll open up the discussion.
I have a lot to enthuse about. So I think that this application is really exemplary for some of the things that we've talked about. So I really appreciate the efforts to interpret history from a variety of perspectives that are really authentic to what the mission of this organization is. So I think they've done a really amazing job in their organization also exploring how they can go further in DEIA and how that shows up in programming. I also really appreciate the data on Adams County attendance, which is really significant, especially for the field trips. And I really appreciate the investment in staff and how they're talking about, like, this is how we're going to continue and sustain our organization and pay our staff a livable wage. And I wanted to commend thinking about diversifying revenue streams. I know this option isn't available everywhere, but it seems like the additional revenue stream with the liquor license will really expand their opportunities for hosting events and for really bringing the farm to life.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is ditto. I totally agree with everything you said there.
Yeah, I think all of those things are so noteworthy, and you covered it, but I just want to call out, like, because I think it's really special to see how they're building in accessibility for people who are deaf, people who are blind, neurodivergent visitors. They have dual language materials. Like, they're really looking at DEIA and the full reaches of how they can make an impact and incorporate people who have been previously left out. So I love it. I think it's a great field trip destination for Adams County kids.
Yep.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but they are over the funding limit just slightly. So just pointing it out.
Yeah, that's true. Anyone else? All right. So we will close the conversation for Maya and move to Friends of Dinosaur Ridge. And I do believe I did not turn my page. Okay, that they are requesting funds for one project, which is school organizational guided tours of Dinosaur Ridge. So with that, I will open the discussion.
It's dinosaurs. Do we need to say anything else?
No.
But if I do, I think it's really great that they've hired a diversity consultant. As I think I said yesterday, it's really important to notice that you can't do all the work from within. You need sometimes an outside perspective to help you push that envelope and move forward. And then they also formed a diversity committee, which I really like. I think it's really cool how much attention they put into those school tours and how they're able to customize them to incorporate details from a lesson plan to really bring it full circle. So the kids are learning in addition to having their minds blown. And I thought the way they detailed what the Adams County visitors cost them and justified their ask from us. Like, I think it was very comprehensive.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
I really appreciated the detailed financial breakdown of the cost to support tours. I think that this application gave us a really great insight into what it takes to operate the project that they're asking for.
Any other discussion? Other than I do agree with everything that was said. I think this is I'm really excited about the application, so it's really very good. With that, we'll move to the Golden Eagle Concert Band, and they are requesting funds for one project, which is the band concert in Adams County. So with that, I'll open the discussion. I just want to mention that I'm always excited when I see organizations reaching out to the eastern perimeter of Adams County. And they're going over to the Strasbourg High School event. I think they play there every year. So with that, I just want to note that they did that.
Yeah, this was one for me when I was reading it. I'm really glad we did that compassionate grant making class, because I think it was very apparent that they've had everybody struggled in the pandemic, but I think it hit them pretty hard. And at first I had, maybe some more questions and stuff, but I think it's okay to say the pandemic hit them really hard. They have 2 great concerts that they're going to put on in Adams County, and I think it's exciting to support them.
Yep. Yeah. Anyone else have any comments?
Thanks, Christina, for that comment
Sure.
at the grant making.
All right. With that, we close the discussion and move to grand design. And bear with me 1 second. They are requesting the funding for one project, and it is the New Century Jubilee project. And with that, I will open up the discussion.
I think this seems like a very special, exciting program. I think their grant was put together beautifully. It's very thorough and meticulous. I think it's exciting programming that we have yet to see in this batch of grant applicants.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, Christina. I would love to know a little bit more about how they're reaching out to the communities within Adams to build the audience for the project. But otherwise, I really loved the application, and totally echo your comments about the different kind of programming that they're offering.
And I just noted that, as well as some of the other organizations, they really had a learning experience from the pandemic and have pivoted to virtual programming as well as on site, continuing on in the future. So I like that idea. And they're aggressively, which in the past they weren't, using a lot of social media. Anyone else? No? Okay. So the next organization, our last one for this evening, is the Historic Denver Molly Brown House Museum, and they are requesting funds for one project, which is community education programs. And with that, I will open it up for discussion.
I saw you unmute, Megan. So I really like this one. I think it's a great example of showcasing history in its many facets. And they acknowledge that many of the topics people were wrestling with in the early 1900s, we're still wrestling with today, including voting rights, immigration, labor practices, and the impacts of a pandemic. So I think it's really great for them to bring history forward to today to, connect those lessons. And their programming is great. I also love that they acknowledge that SCFD funding is allowing them to bring this to kids for free. So
I totally agree. I think that was a very creative project that they're going to be doing. And again, I noted that they are going to be going out to Bennett. So that's great. I love that idea.
Yeah, Joyce, I'll follow up that I really appreciate not just that they're going to Bennett, but that they're developing a partnership with a historic house in Bennett. I think
Right.
that kind of like cross-organizational partnership really helps build resiliency. I also appreciate that they're participating in the Adams County Fair. I
Yes,
think
yes,
that's a great thing too.
yeah, thanks. Anyone else?
Just a nod to the specific details about how this factors into the overarching budget. Just really appreciated how thorough that was.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. So with that, we have finished our discussions on the grants. So we'll move on the agenda now to the Adams County updates, Zoe.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Council. That was very good, very swift. I appreciate all of your thoughtful comments. I know the organizations do. One Adams County update is for our Neighbors Connect event this Saturday at Rotella Park. It's the first one. Did my internet just go out? What just happened?
No, you're fine.
You're
Oh, I
with
am, because everything is frozen on my screen. But if you can hear me fine, then great.
And you're not frozen on our side.
Okay, perfect. So it's the first event. It's really designed to just do that, connect the neighborhood together. It was created by the Community Safety and Wellbeing team, and it's going to have a lot going on. So it's from 10 to 3 at Rotella Park this Saturday. Thank you to all the SCFD organizations that are coming and representing. But there will be an egg hunt and vendors, resources, cultural organizations, and then all kinds of services like free haircuts and mini manicures and goats. Goats will be there. So I think it's going to be a pretty great day. So if you're free, come on by to Rotella Park. But that's
Can we
all I
talk
have.
about haircuts, manicures, and goats being in the same?
Yes, I know.
know.
It's really exciting.
Manicures, yes.
It sounds like a fun day.
It does. That's right.
It does. It does. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. All right. Anything else from the board before we adjourn? Or Dana, just give you one more chance.
I have nothing. Oh, well, I said it last time, but the board meeting will be on Thursday, April the 28th, when they will vote to approve the resolution for the funding for Adams County, which is amazing.
Great. Thank you. All right, with that, I just want to thank everybody, all the council for being here and all the input. It's valuable. It's definitely valuable to the organizations, and thank you to those organizations that were here tonight. So with that, we will adjourn until next week. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye. See you next week.
Bye-bye.